everyone. I'm Cynthia Nyandoro Magwenjere, and I am a number of things. I'm really excited to be part of this series on Anna's channel, and I really look forward to sharing all the stuff that I've learned in my own time as an entrepreneur. So there's going to be a number of things I'm going to talk about, and I'm just going to glance over sometimes at some of the stuff Anna's asked me to speak about. So, who am I? I am Cynthia, as I mentioned, and I am married to my husband Lennon, and we have two little girls, Sonia and Crystal. They are 8 and 5, respectively, and they add to my workload. I'll say that. I think being a mom and entrepreneur is a, a whole circus act, I'll say, because there's so much juggling that goes into it, but I'm grateful all the same for my beautiful family. And looking at what made me decide to go into business. So I do a number of things. I am a life coach, I am a business consultant, I am into tailoring, and I'm into a number of other retail ventures. So, what made me decide to go into business is really something that is so close to my heart, which is the issue of financial freedom. So, I believe that when you're someone who was born without much, you really need to make sure that you've done more to secure more for your next generation. And when I became a parent, I was trying to, secure employment and keep a steady job and a steady income. But then it wasn't enough. The job market, especially in countries like Zimbabwe, is not very kind to you, no matter how well educated you are or where you're from. So I would get jobs, but there would be contract work and it wouldn't last very long. And eventually I decided to go into business because I just felt like I also want to be in control of my job security, just not having that everyday thing of you just might lose this job. So that's what made me get into business. And in terms of just what the response was and the feedback around me, I think I'm blessed to have had my husband all along who has always supported me in all the different things I've tried. There are some businesses which I've tried and then shut down because I couldn't do it or because it was really something I wasn't into for the right reasons. So he's been there the entire time where I've been discovering myself and just stepping more and more into the things that I really want to pursue. And that's been an amazing thing. But just as any person would have, I come from a family where I'm the oldest. And so you can imagine the pressure, not just pressure, but the expectation from family that you went to university and you're going to, you know, stick with the job market and just being employed because that's what works. I think the expectation of people doing the norm is what kept me in employment, is what kept me looking for jobs because I kept feeling that pressure from parents and other family who, when you'd say, well, I'm thinking I could just start a business, they're like, no, just go look for another job. It's okay, jobs end, but look for another one. So I think that was the reaction and the responses I got. So it was a mixed bag of family and some friends saying, well, starting a business, especially in economies like the Zimbabwean one, is not a very wise decision. So you need to just look for a job and keep an income that's coming from an employer somewhere. But for me, I was always pushed to look for my own income and actually be an employer myself. So that's what eventually just pushed me to say, no matter what people are going to say, I still had to live up to what I felt inside me and what I felt I could still achieve as an individual. And I think the challenges that come with people speaking against what you're doing is you really have to trust and believe in yourself. And you really have to constantly affirm yourself and say, you know what, it's okay, Cynthia, you're doing all right. You know, with every setback, you have to, rather than get into that pit of what will people say, what will people ask me, you have to get back into that flow of I'm okay and I should just carry on. So that's what I kept saying to myself in all these seasons where I didn't get some of the support that I really needed from the people closest to me. And like I had mentioned before, I really appreciate that my husband was there, um, encouraging me and supporting me, but also telling me where I was going wrong, just helping me through those more difficult seasons and just guiding me through it because he's also got some other business exploits himself. So we've been growing together, and that's been an amazing part of our journey together. Um, and then when we look at what I do, I do a number of things, like I mentioned. I am a life coach. As a life coach, I really focus on mental health. I focus on mental wellness because I believe issues of mental health are not just to do with mental illness and keeping it at bay or keeping it treated, but it's also stuff like making sure we know how to cope with everyday life, just making sure we know how to control our emotions, things like that. So I believe in helping people establish a healthier sense of mental well being. And with that, I believe everyone can start to achieve their full potential. We can all start to live the lives that we want or the quality of life that we want because we think better and we know better and now we can do better. That's why I focus on mental wellness because I really think the world right now is in a place where we are bogged down by so many worries and so many stresses, but we all need to get into a healthier, balanced state of wellness. And that's what I focus on. So when it comes to tailoring, I I design clothes and other like fabric items, but I really focus on clothes. That's what I've really started with. I had always wanted to start making clothes. I'd always thought, being a slim girl in our African context where not many women are a size 4 or a size 6, more women are bigger. And that's a beautiful size, but that's not my size. So I would always find these beautiful things that I can't fit into because they just hang on me. And I always felt like someday I would want to contribute to the clothing rack in the store and say, that's my thing, and it's going to fit someone my size. Someone like me is also going to feel like they have someone who's thinking of them in the design space. So that's what pushed me to get into designing. And I eventually did find a team of tailors that I work with as an entrepreneur now because I never learned how to sew. So, in as much as I want to know every aspect of my business, I also believe in collaboration. Not everything, you don't have to do everything yourself. So, because I found a good team that I work with, that's what we do. I design and they do the tailoring bit, and it's been working so far, and I've really enjoyed it. And I also mentioned that I've got other business interests. I'm also involved in a BPO business that me and my husband run, which is really doing business process outsourcing in terms of your call center, your back office admin. And right now we're doing like these virtual assistant offerings. And it's been interesting, just being involved in all these different spaces, very different spaces, and just really exploring every aspect of the things that I'm interested in. So it's been an interesting journey just getting to start doing all those things. Um, then when we look at the ups and downs of running a business, oh my word, there's so much that goes into a business. It's blood, sweat, and tears. at sometimes. I think we look at business and we think, yeah, I could never do this because that person is more competent, or that person has this, that person has that. I'll tell you now, no matter how much money you have, no matter how much expertise you have, some of the challenges are always going to just show up, because a business is not a static thing, it's an evolving thing. And so, market trends, economies, and right now we've got COVID, which just happened, and that's a medical, a health pandemic. Who would have thought a pandemic like that would affect business in the way it has? You know, who knew that 2020 was going to have this happen? But that's happened, and businesses have still had to evolve. So I believe there's so many ups and downs in terms of just like right now with COVID. It's been a struggle trying to get around to deliver our clothing items the way we normally do, or to get our fabrics, or to source our fabrics, because some stuff we get from across the border, some stuff we get from other areas. And so traveling hasn't been as easy because we've had lockdown regulations, and so you have these movement restrictions, and you can't go back and forth. Sometimes the tailors haven't been able to come to work. You have issues like that, and it'll always be challenges, but it's about you evolving, you learning how to adapt in these situations. There's also issues of cash flow, issues of how you keep the morale of your staff up, how you manage your cash flows, how you manage your accounts. There's all these things, that all these little aspects that, if not handled well, they cause the downfall of any business. And so I think it's just important to realize and acknowledge that setbacks will come, but you just have to keep adapting, you have to keep evolving, and stay on your toes in terms of knowing what's happening with your business. Just because I'm an owner does not license me to not pay attention to how my customers are treated, not pay attention to how my books are handled, not pay attention to how my taxes are being paid. All those things are still things you need to keep an eye on, because those are the things that destroy businesses. All the time we hear of businesses that have now gone out of business because they've had cash flow issues, or they've gone bankrupt, or there was embezzlement. Those are all because issues that come up because someone dropped the ball somewhere. So I think, as small or as big as your business is, take care of every little aspect of it. Even if you've got a team, make sure you get the right reports, the right feedback, the right information, so you keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on in the business, and just keep everything in check in that way. Just keep knowledgeable of what's happening. And when I look at what I've learned, I think what I've learned, yes, is to evolve. And I've also learned not to sweat the small stuff. Sometimes things do go wrong and you cannot fix it, and you couldn't have stopped it, but don't sweat the small stuff. I think it's important to learn that bad stuff does happen sometimes, out of our control. And the important lesson, the biggest lesson, is to get up and try again. Get up and start again. I mentioned earlier that I did start some businesses and close them down. That's true, because I realized I couldn't sustain it, I couldn't grow it, and I didn't have a good plan for it. So it wasn't worth pursuing. And that's what I've learned. That's what I've learned, to let go of some things that don't work. If something's not working, if something is not for you, pick it up, and you pick that up. Just don't push it. Don't keep forcing yourself to be in a business that is no longer working for you. That's, I think, my advice to you. Don't sweat the small stuff. Don't keep pushing for things that are not working for you, and just keep pursuing the things that are working. Some things work, but they do take time to grow. So be patient with yourself and your business as it grows. That's my advice to you. And when it comes to what what we can do to encourage the next generation, I think, like I mentioned much earlier on, the issue is really to grow generational wealth. I believe so much in that. I believe we can all contribute to taking care of the next generation, whether it's in our families or just in a holistic approach in our communities. I believe whatever business solution you have, it might serve the next generation, might serve this generation, and it might be a solution that we've been waiting for. And that's what I think is so important. Let's encourage our children to dream. Let's encourage our peers to dream. Let's encourage every bit of the next generation to dream bigger than we dreamed. You know, I think it's important that we carry on and we keep pushing ourselves, we keep pursuing the things that we feel at our core. Because one of the things that really pushed me to step into these businesses that I do is I kept feeling a sense of purpose in doing these things. So I don't just do business because it makes money or it makes me, it gives me a profit. I do business that I feel a connection to in terms of what my purpose is. So my encouragement when we speak to the younger people or the next generation, let's allow them to dream, and let's not say to them this is impossible just because we never did it or we never pursued that. Let's encourage them to dream and then guide the process towards those dreams. So if they say they want to get into fashion, let's show them every corner of the fashion industry and what it looks like. And they can then have a guiding principle, on how to go about this rather than just jumping into the deep end and then sinking halfway because you had no clue where you were going. So let's encourage them, let's allow them to pursue what they want to pursue. And then the final thing, what my final encouragement in all of it is just business is not an easy thing, especially for women, because we occupy so many spaces, we are in so many different roles, and I think it's important that we support each other all the time. Let's support each other. If you see a sister in business, find a way to support her. Sometimes that support might just be feedback on her branding and just how else she can do her branding to attract more customers. Sometimes it's buying from her. Sometimes it's just taking a post, reposting it, or sharing it with your circle. That's just how we can support. Let's find all the ways we can support each other and do that. And I've really enjoyed sharing all these things. I think it's been a mouthful, but I really hope you get whatever nuggets you need from this and from the rest of the series. And if you want to connect with me, you can find me on Instagram at I am underscore Cynthia underscore M, and on Facebook at I am Cynthia.m. And to follow my tailoring business, you can follow me at Cee Artistry. So I really hope to connect with you, and you can also check out some of my work on my website at which is on WordPress. It's WordPress.imcynthia. It's imcynthiam.wordpress.com. So I hope you can connect with me on whatever platform, and just really stay encouraged, stay hopeful, and do the best you can with the resources you can to build your business and to support the next business. Thank you.